And we're back with 2 subscription coffees for you. This time 2 very different coffees from Akmel in Ethiopia and from Kii factory in Kenya. And with me is Zewdie.
Hi.
Our wonderful bar manager from Karlsbyen. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
And you're already busy brewing coffee for us.
Yes, I'm just brewing the Akmel filter coffee, which we launched last Friday.
Yeah, exactly. And this is coming out for you subscribers in espresso version for the espresso people and filter for the filter people. And Akmel is a relationship coffee that we fostered for about a decade now. I think it's about 10 years since we first were introduced to Akmel via Instagram, where he reached out with a set of pictures from his farm, which is a private owned farm in the Jimma area in the west of Ethiopia. And he sent us a picture of his cherry selection, so all the beautifully ripe coffee cherries that he had harvested. They were in a big pile, and he wrote us that a Danish guy had told him in Jimma to contact us because we were doing direct trade, and he thought it would be a good way for him to sell this coffee. And what's your relationship with this coffee?
Akmel has been a coffee that I've worked with for the last 5 years, and each year has tasted quite different. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's been super fruity and you can really taste the tropical natural notes. Other times it has been a little bit more dark chocolate and smooth, and this year I would definitely say it's kind of on that scale of things. Mm-hmm. Really nice, slightly heavier coffee than what we have compared to some of the other coffees, so it's a really nice balance to have on the menu.
Yeah, and it is a natural processed coffee, and he dries them on raised tables, so he actually keeps it quite clean, but it does vary quite a bit from year to year, and don't expect it to be like one of these funky, wild, natural coffees. We buy this to have something that's lower in acidity, that has a little bit of fruit, more like dried fruit, and have something that's actually, I would say, more almost reminding of us Brazilian coffee or something. Something that's kind of like chocolatey and low, and a little bit of like different kind of nuts in the aroma as well.
And pretty low acidity as well.
Pretty low acidity,
really
yeah.
Important to say.
So it's very unlike some of the wild naturals we have from Bolivia. It's also different than a lot of the other Ethiopian naturals. If you go to like old school Harar, they're very blueberry-like, and some of the naturals from Yirgacheffe can be more like wild, almost overripe strawberries and stuff. This one is much more balanced. So look for like heavy body when you're brewing and enjoying this one. So that's the Akmel. Yeah. I'll pour you some of the Kii.
Thank you.
There we go. You'll also be getting 2 very different kind of flavor profiles. As we talked about, the Akmel is very sort of balanced and sweet. The Kii be quite different.
Yeah. Huge difference between the two.
First thing you'll notice in flavor difference here is the level of acidity, which is much, much higher in the Kii compared to the Akmel, which is quite low acidity, like full-bodied and pleasant.
Definitely, yeah. And especially if you're comparing it to maybe other Ethiopian coffees from the Yirgacheffe region, they can often be very citrusy and high acidity, whereas this one is definitely a much heavier, kind of more spicy coffee, whereas the Kii is, you know, you can almost smell the acidity before you drink it. It has lots of blackcurrant, red berry aroma. So very different. Mm-hmm.
And Kii is a factory in Kirinyaga region in Kenya. So it's on like the southern slopes of Mount Kenya. It's part of the Rungeto Society. That society is one of the best managed societies I've ever visited. They are doing a super good job in terms of farmer education, in terms of selecting cherries when they come in, and the whole processing and washing of the cherries is done very meticulously. And the flavor profile from that area is just insanely great for me. It's very clear, very defined, really good structure, and an abundance of acidity. I think you'll be hard pressed to find more juicy acidic coffees than this one.
Yeah.
And sure. Kii was a favorite for us last year. We bought an AB, so slightly smaller beans, that people just absolutely loved. This year we found a AA lot that we thought was even better. And that's the one that you get first dibs on. This won't be released in other channels until later in the year, so you'll be the first ones to taste it.
And in comparison to Kii, Akmel is a small private farm. He grows and mills all of his own coffee, so it is a completely different setup than it is to Kii. But we've had a really long-standing relationship with Akmel, and we go back every year to talk about quality.
Yeah, and when Akmel bought the farm, he also decided to do everything organically, so it's organic certified. He grows his coffee amidst like all these other indigenous trees in there, and parts of the farm looks more like a rainforest than a coffee farm. These two coffees are for a filter, especially the Kii is roasted very light. Really wanted to get all the juicy and all those berry notes out of it. The Akmel is slightly darker roasted, so do expect. Try to aim for a little bit more body. Don't be afraid that you might start to get a little bit of bitterness if you go very fine. Then just back it up until you feel you got a good balance of that sweetness coming out. And I think the Kii espresso is going to be really interesting. It might be harder to dial in because you really want to balance the acidity so that you feel it's a pleasant experience. Exactly. What would your take be?
I think if you're a person that is brewing milk-based espresso drinks at home, you're going to love the Akmel espresso this year. It's super full-bodied, creamy, works really, really well with milk. Kii, on the other hand, is basically this enormous fruit bomb. It's just super acidic, super sweet, and really kind of gets this really tingly mouthfeel going on. So very different espressos and stuff for everyone in there.
Yeah.
Cut. So the way we've been brewing it in the bar, it can change actually from day to day. But the Akmel, I would say, maybe goes a bit more classic. So a 1 to 2 recipe, 19 grams in, 38 out, in around 27 to 28 seconds if you want that kind of rich and full-bodied espresso. The Kii is a bit more playful. You could try and pull out the extraction a little bit. So again, still 19 grams in, around 40, sometimes we do 42 grams out as well to really kind of push those push the aromas. But again, Kii is something that I like also on a classic recipe. You can kind of really get that rich berry notes to it as well, where you can get a bit of vanilla and marzipan as well. So,
but I'd even say if you get too much acidity on a 1 to 2 ratio, try just extracting more from it. You'll see it balances out, it leaves more space for the aromas. And one thing I find interesting with some of these Kenyans is you can go very long in terms of time without getting bitterness. So if you like to really push the extraction, do try it out. At the same time, you can go really fast, like almost turbo shot, like fast, like 16 seconds extraction, and get like all the just the top notes out, but you'll lose out on a bunch of the sweetness and a bunch of the like deeper notes that the Kii actually has as well.
I've never done a 16-second.
No, it's it's
so worth a try.
Fun.
Yeah, exactly.
If you have a really good grinder, it might be fun to try out. But I also say like more like 1942 grams out in 26 seconds would probably where I would start with the Kii. Yeah. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you
sharing your knowledge.
Yes, it's lovely
it's
to
fun.
be here.
And thanks for watching. And we'll see you back with another set of subscription coffees in 4 weeks' time.
Yes.